Welcome to One Breath Wisdom, the podcast for therapists, healers, and soul-led space holders, ready to lead from wholeness, not burnout. I am Lisa McNett, founder of One Breath Institute and co-creator of the One Breath Method. Each week, I will be sharing trauma-informed insight, somatic tools, and real stories from the healing path, sometimes solo, sometimes with our co-founder, Deborah Dickey, and sometimes with special guests walking this path in their own powerful way. Together, we will explore how healing, embodiment, and presence can transform the way we live, lead, and care for others without losing ourselves. Let's take a breath and begin. Hello and welcome to One Breath Wisdom. I am your host, Lisa McNett, founder of One Breath Institute. And today I want to discuss with you healing at the root. What healing at the root means within the One Breath method, how it is possible, and why it is not something that happens quickly in most cases. The podcast is inspired by a conversation I had with a client a few days ago. And from that conversation, it seems to have come up in other conversations that I have had and even into one of our recent classes. And so I'm imagining that you are also probably seeing or exploring or curious about what it means to heal at the root. Now, this is something that I didn't notice it until it was brought to my attention, but it's everywhere. Everyone is sharing heal at the root, heal at the root, heal at the root. And we share that too. We share that you can heal at the root. But the difference is we are not saying that you can do it quickly. And that is the part that is potentially dangerous or damaging, or at least is creating frustration in people who are like, yes, I want to heal at the root, and then finding that they are not actually going to do that in the 1 week or the weekend program that is behind that marketing tactic. So when we talk about healing at the root, what are we actually talking about? We're exploring from our humanness. We are speaking about the root of the issues, right? The root of the issues. This is pointing towards going back to childhood experiences, traumatic experiences. We can also be connecting it to the root chakra if we're using that language. And in the root chakra is coding from ancestral experiences, healing at the root. If we have any root chakra issue or any deeply embedded traumatic experiences, then that manifests in ways of not feeling safe in our body and maybe not feeling at home, maybe having a hard time having enough money. Anything that is related to rootedness, that is more related to home, stability, financial situation. So people might explore wanting to heal at the root so that they can feel safer in their body, so that they can have less anxiety engaging with people, so that they can have the grounded things that they need, like stability in their home or financial stability. Let's go beyond financial stability and go to financial freedom. Healing at the root helps us to have better relationships with all people. This can be friendships, this can be romantic. So if you want to have a stable family with children, just a stable family, period, a partner that you don't fight with all the time, these are all motivations for healing at the root. So these are all great motivations. But what is a root? So before we really look at that, before we even get into any of those things, I want to bring in the metaphor of a tree. Yes, an actual tree with roots. So if you look outside, depending on where you are, you can probably see a tree. Maybe not if you're in a concrete jungle, but you know what a tree looks like. Trees are very stable. Trees are very firm. Trees are very tall. And the roots of the trees are what go underground. They are going into the darkness. They are going into the depths. The roots cannot be seen. Maybe some of the surface roots can be seen. I'm in Florida and we have some trees that the roots can be seen on the surface. But generally speaking, the roots that are really keeping trees stable and grounded and nourishing them and supporting them, those are the deeply buried roots that can literally travel for blocks. They can travel for miles. And roots can actually be attached to other trees as well. Yeah, so this is something that you may not be aware of. Yeah, roots they are attached, they are intertwined with other trees. Some roots are rising out of the ground as other trees. This has been shared, this has been proven, this has been shown by scientists who are arborists who study trees. A root can be attached to one tree in the ground, and it can be a mile away or blocks away coming up as part of another tree. So if we look at this in terms of our roots, some of the roots that we might want to heal are unconscious. They cannot be seen. We don't even know what they are, so we cannot consciously heal them. This is where introspective breathwork therapy, breathwork, and somatic practices can support getting into the unconscious parts within ourselves. This is where introspective breathwork therapy, breathwork, other somatic practices can support healing at the root, because those practices are getting to what is unconsciously stored in the body in a way that it can become seen, it can start to move, it can shift. So that's one thing I want to mention. And then this interconnection to other trees, you can consider this as the ancestral connection. And you may have no idea what you are carrying or what you are connecting to through your root connections, through your unconscious lineage that is not yours, or that cannot easily be healed and integrated because of that connection and what that connection means. For example, if you just went in and just severed those connections, then something might shrivel up and die. It might change in such a drastic way that we may not be ready for yet. Roots are sturdy enough to keep an entire tree stable and standing for decades. And so in that sense, even if our roots are connected to things that may not be serving us, it may disrupt us. And when I say disrupt, it may cause such emotional instability or even psychosis if we have such a drastic uprising. And the nervous system is so incredibly intelligent. The nervous system generally prevents this from happening. This is why the way that the brain works is really amazing, and the nervous system, which are they're linked together. The brain saves power by only allowing to be in your conscious memory really what you need to know. And if there's anything that will be overwhelming to the system, it keeps that memory suppressed. It keeps that memory unconscious. And so when you go and you do things that might be like ayahuasca or some sort of, intense processor, or I'm going to bring in a substance, because substances are one thing that can be really dangerous to use. Substances can bypass some of the safety mechanisms within the nervous system and have experiences come up, have remembrances come up that have just such major shifts happen that can create things like psychosis, that can create you feeling really emotionally unstable, as I mentioned. Those experiences can leave you not well for a long time. And the level of support that you get after those kinds of experiences will help with the integration of those experiences and whether or not you're able to ground and integrate those changes. So we really want to, and we really need to, trust and respect the wisdom of our nervous system. We can't just go dig up the tree. Just can't, if we go and we just dig up the tree because there's a root that we want to get to, we're going to kill the whole tree. We're going to kill the whole tree. So this is not hopeless. This is hopeful. It just speaks to why healing at the root is not something that is a quick and easy thing. It's why it takes time and it takes space and it takes curiosity, openness, it takes support, and it takes integration of the experiences as you move through your journey. So if we look at the tree, okay, we've talked about the roots, we've talked about the tree. When the tree is strong and it's this sturdy branch, and then the tree has its branches, and then there's so many leaves. Leaves fall off during different seasons. In the winter, you might see a tree that doesn't have very many or any leaves on it. So I want to mention that because if you are on a healing journey, as you heal and as you change your habits, old ways of being, little things, little experiences, and ways of being, they oftentimes just fall away unnoticed. They just fall away unnoticed. And that's why it's important to take time out to acknowledge your personal growth, to acknowledge the season that you've just been through, to acknowledge your accomplishments. This is something at One Breath Institute that we take time at the end of each of our modules, which are 3-month periods, and take time to really go back and connect with where you were at the beginning of that module. Explore what aha moments, what shifts happened naturally as our students progressed through their own experiences with introspective breathwork therapy and their professional experiences working with clients, and what conscious changes they made as well. And it's oftentimes such a surprise. Like we might have a student who says like, no, nothing really happened, nothing really changed. And then a few breaths and just connecting and starting to ask them some questions. And all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, that happened. And that happened. And that happened too. And that happened too. And then they realize that there are so many things that just wasn't on their conscious radar. And that happens to us all the time. It's like sometimes we set out to change and it seems like nothing's happening. Then a year or 2 years later, we're like, whoa, my life is totally different. How did I get here? What happened? I imagine you might have that frame of reference for at least one thing in your life. So when we take the time out to acknowledge, then we notice the little leaves that changed. And the leaves, guess what? The leaves are attached to the tree, which is attached to the root. So leaves might fall off, and that might be old habits, old ways of being, but then they grow back in the new season. They grow back, and they might be a different color, or they're oftentimes stronger. It's a newness that comes. The leaves, when we are looking at our healing journey, the leaves are easier to reach. They are easier to work with, right? We can just reach up and grab one. We can pull it off if we want to. These are the things that you can see and you can touch in your everyday life, meaning the conversations that you have, the interactions that you have. In life, they may be the minor annoyances, the conversations that you replay in your mind, wishing you had said something different or wishing it went a different way. These are the small things you want to change. You begin to heal the root by taking space, breathing, and responding in a different way. It is a moment to moment to moment to moment experience, which is so beautiful that you have the opportunity. So we talk about how, in some of the last episodes, we talk about how the body is holding all of the memory. The body's holding all of the experiences that you have, which is so true. And because we know that, like, we might have anxiety, or we might feel like we need to isolate, or we want to sleep a lot, or we have all of these things in our head. It's like, I got to fix all this thing with my mom or my dad or my sister or my family, or what, I got to fix all that so that I can be different. But those are the roots. Those are the things that are harder. Oftentimes, the mom or the sister or whatever, the big experiences, let's just call them the roots. We can't just go and hack those away because it's more complicated. But having difficult conversations with a person or with people in your life who you do feel safe with, that is helping to heal at the root. It is helping you to change a pattern, because the pattern may have started way, 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 way back in the beginning, way back over there. And we get triggered every time we connect with those people in our life where those patterns started. And we say, I'm going to be different next time. But then we get around them and yeah, we're triggered and we're not, right? And then we beat ourselves up. But the pattern's also playing out in other ways in your life all of the time and in other places. So let's just take a breath with that. Healing happens in relationship, not in isolation. But healing happens in right relationship. It gives you that opportunity to work with your leaves, with situations and places and events and people that are safe or safe enough for you to be different. For you to be different. So I'm going to give you a practice. Because you might be thinking, oh, well, that's easier said than done, Lisa. Yeah, okay, maybe it is. Maybe it is. So the ways that we do this. So first we need to bring awareness to what the everyday annoyances or frustrations or reactions that we have are. If we're just going through the day, and we don't even notice, I'm just frustrated and I don't even know why. Okay, stop. Sit down, take some space, just be quiet for a little while, take some breaths, and start journaling what happened in my day. And come to the root of the frustration. So the beautiful thing is that you get to be imperfect with this. When I'm speaking to our everyday interactions and our everyday engagements, this doesn't mean that I'm going to get them all right. I'm going to get them all perfect. But you can look at what are some ways that you are responding or engaging that don't feel good, and how would you like to transform those ways? What would you like to be different? How would you like to respond differently? Or what types of relationships would you like to create? And then once you have that information, then you can explore who you might want to talk with, who you might want to practice with, implementing some new ways of being. Sometimes when we walk away from a conversation and we feel like unhappy with the way that it went, or I wish I said this different, or da-da-da-da, you can go back. You can go back to that conversation. Surprise! you can go back to that person and you can say, I said yes when you asked me if I would come and help you move next weekend, but I'm really not available for that. I'm so sorry. I said it out of a place of wanting to be helpful, wanting to be needed, wanting you to like me, whatever it might have been. But the truth is, I just have too many things happening. So when we are wanting to change the way that we are, it's really important for us to look at how we are creating our reality. And we are creating our reality through the way that we respond, the way that we engage, through our words, through our interactions. And so we want to take 100% responsibility for the reality that we are creating at all times. That doesn't mean if somebody abused you that you are responsible for that. I'm just going to say that right there. What I am speaking to is that if you are frustrated regularly or you are not liking the way that your life is, that you have the power to change it. And when you are making a choice to create change in your relationships and have conversations with people that may be challenging or difficult, that you come to it from an I perspective. Ownership of your feelings, ownership of your thoughts, ownership of your experiences, ownership of the way that you want to be different. Not from an attacking or blaming or you need to be different or you did this place. When we stand in our truth and are vulnerable and open about our true feelings and start to share ourselves more authentically, say yes to the things we want to say yes to, no to the things that we are not available for without apology or feeling guilty. When we create the boundaries that we need in our life, not just for safety, but for comfort, you are healing at the root. You are doing that. And as you build up, it's a muscle. As you build up this muscle, and you're changing the leaves on your tree, then this starts to cascade down through the tree and into the roots. And then you have greater capacity to affect change, the change that you really want, that deep, deep, deep root change, and to address things that are maybe too overwhelming or scary today. So let's take a breath. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Please drop your thoughts, drop your questions so I know what those are, and share this with somebody who needs to hear it. Until next time, be well. Thank you for listening to One Breath Wisdom. If something in today's episode spoke to you, I would love to know it. Send me a message on Instagram at One Breath Institute or at Lisa McNett, and please share the episode with someone else who needs to hear it. Remember, you are not here to carry it all. You are here to come home to yourself, one breath at a time. Until next time, take a breath and be well.